I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. It's Tuesday.
Good morning to Colorado Springs.
If you're tuning in from the Springs and wondering what we're up to with the Jeff and Bill Show, Colorado born and raised, we hit the issues that matter locally, statewide, and nationally, and keep it lively while we do it. We want to hear from you. Join the conversation. Give us a call at 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line, 720-819-5115. We're fired up to be on the air in the Springs. We hope you'll stick with us. Let's go back to the phone lines. Frank and Evergreen. Good morning, Frank. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Let's start with a couple of facts first. Fact number one, Obama deported 4 U.S. citizens. Trump has deported no U.S. citizens. Obama killed 17 detainees. Trump has technically, I guess, killed 2. These facts don't come out because the left-wing media doesn't want you to hear it. And the only reason, and the head of the police union in St. Paul said yesterday that if his policemen were allowed to do their job, those 2 would not have been killed. And the only reason we have all this havoc now, mostly in Minnesota, is because they're not allowing them to do the enforcement the way they allowed Obama to do the enforcement. Obama was allowed full reign of the prisons. He went in, got people, and got them out. Now in Colorado, where they're not going to be able to do that, and in Minnesota, they're not allowed to do that. Maybe that's changing. I don't know. But these are simple facts that the left-wing media doesn't tell us about. And this is not me just, spitting out stuff I wish was true. This is all well-documented stuff from the agency and Holman, by the way, was given an award from Obama for doing such a great job. When Obama was labeled the deporter in chief.
Frank, it comes down to one word, coordination. If local law enforcement and federal ICE officials were allowed to coordinate, you would get the worst of the worst out of here. Frank, I appreciate it. Now is time for news and a lot of comment from Blake Olson. If you're new to our program, listening today for the first time in Colorado Springs, as the show gets syndicated to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, the answer, you may go, this is unique news. That's right, because with Blake Olson, you don't just get news, you get some comments.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good Tuesday morning, 27 and partly cloudy as you listen to Jeff and Bill. In Denver and in the Springs, it's 30 in the Springs, expecting highs in the low 50s today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, the Secret Service warning Denver area residents after finding more than a dozen card skimmers at local businesses. Assistant Special Agent in charge Michael Peck says multiple agencies tested more than 2,700 card readers during an operation last week.
From grocery stores to international markets to convenience stores, and we resulted in finding 19 of them that were in place and actively stealing card information.
The Secret Service says the information captured on the skimmers is not at risk now that the devices have been seized. The agency recommends using a tap to pay when possible and inspecting ATMs and card readers for possible tampering. The House is looking in the federal government shutdown. Oh, goody. That's exciting. NBC's Ryan Nobles.
The House plans to vote today to pass a package that would fund most of the government through September, setting aside the Department of Homeland Security, which will be funded for 2 weeks as the two sides negotiate reforms to the president's controversial immigration raids.
The legislation is backed by 47 and has already passed in the Senate. The mother of Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie is still missing. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos says investigators believe 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie was taken from her home against her will. Nancy Guthrie was reported missing on Saturday outside Tucson. Slick Willie and Hillary Clinton are agreeing to testify before Congress on Epstein. Their attorneys told Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer in an email Monday that they'll appear after months of refusing to comply with subpoenas. The House was just days away from voting on whether to hold the Clintons in criminal contempt of Congress for skipping earlier deposition dates.
I don't feel no ways tired.
Oh, my goodness. The defense team. That's one of our favorites, by the way. I got to finish it real quick for our New Springs listeners.
I'm too far from where I started from.
It just never gets old, ever. Ever, never.
They've got to be in their how old are they?
No, I think they're pushing 80. I think maybe. I think Slick Willie is in his 80s, I think, isn't he?
They went to school together. 78 is Hillary. Wow. Yep. They never get out of the limelight, do they? I mean, they just right back into it.
Isn't that amazing how they do that? They're incredible people. The defense team for Tyler Robinson, accused of murdering Charlie Kirk, says they don't want a trial in secret, but they do want some documents kept private. He's back in court today. Colorado Springs police officer is recovering, and a suspect is in critical condition after a shooting Monday northeast of Memorial Park in the Springs. Caitlin Ford says authorities were in the area conducting a separate operation when it happened.
CSPD officers attempted to contact an unknown male who was unrelated to the operation and acting suspiciously. The male fled from officers and then produced a handgun. The male then shot at officers, striking one of them.
She's the spokesperson for Colorado Springs Police, Caitlin Ford. The officer was hospitalized with serious injuries, but expected to be released soon. Once again, the suspect remains in critical condition. Federal immigration agents in Minneapolis will start wearing body cams. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem took to X on Monday saying it'll be expanded nationwide. 47 welcoming the Colombian President Gustavo Petro to the White House today. The president said he'll discuss the flow of drugs coming from the region. Red Wings shut out the Avalanche last night 2-0 in the NHL, and college hockey DU at CC this week on Friday. Nuggets at the Pistons tonight, 5 o'clock tip-off. 30 in the Springs, 27 in Denver, and you're waking up with Jeff and Billy. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area calls for dry, cool wintertime conditions tonight, lows near 30. A weak cold front and small disturbance moved through the area late this Tuesday. Beforehand, low 50s for highs, few rain and snow showers late in the day, a touch of light snow. Tuesday evening and night, trace to an inch possible, mid-20s for lows, near 50, partly cloudy Wednesday, mild and dry. Thursday through the weekend, highs in the 60s, lows near 30. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Justice is coming. I've been saying that this was going to happen for a while. I'm thrilled to see it finally start to materialize. National Review reporting detransitioner wins $2 million medical malpractice lawsuit. What they're doing to these kids, the carving up of these poor kids that's taking place in this country with these trans surgeries. Well, now the lawsuits are coming. And I've never understood why a doctor would do this. One, because I think it's a violation of the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm. I think that's exactly what they're doing. I think they're harming these confused minors out there, carving them up with irreversible surgeries that are just terrible. Now the lawsuits are starting to come. The first gender detransitioner medical malpractice case to go to trial resulted in a $2 million verdict against the medical professionals who approved a double mastectomy for Fox Varian, the plaintiff, in 2019 when she was only 16 years old. She'll never get those back. They'll never work right. A jury on January 30th found a psychologist and surgeon liable for malpractice when they supported and performed breast removal surgery on a 16-year-old girl who at the time identified as transgender. Fox Varian, now 22 and no longer identifying as a transgender, was awarded $2 million in damages with $1.6 million for past and future pain and suffering, and another $400,000 for future medical expenses. $400,000 for future medical expenses. The jury found in many respects the surgeon and psychologist had skipped important steps when evaluating whether she should go forward with the surgery and had not adequately communicated with each other. These missteps were a departure from the standard of care, they decided. Just as Chloe Cole's medical malpractice case, which has not yet been litigated, adults feared Fox would commit suicide. Varian's mother, Claire Deacon, testified that she was against the surgery, but consented out of fear her daughter would commit suicide if she didn't get it. Einhorn increased that worry, she told the court. Defense attorneys countered that Varian had made similar threats on multiple occasions and that ideas of self-harm didn't come from her therapist. The case did not challenge the general propriety of such care in quotes, of minors with gender dysphoria, but alleged it was not appropriate in Fox's particular case. The verdict is an important development in the great cause of protecting gender-confused minors from being subjected to irreversible procedures from which they can never be made whole. Why? Trial lawyers. They are coming for you. You doctors in hospitals that are performing these surgeries, and rightfully so. You should be sued into the ground for the abuse that you're bringing to these kids. I hope this just explodes across the country and these doctors and hospitals end up in bankruptcy. Bill, your thoughts?
Well, it seems, based on this case, to be appropriate. They skipped steps in the care. Yeah, I don't come to the conclusion that you do, that one, this is going to be the watershed moment where a lot of these cases are out there. I don't see anything showing that a large portion of people that transition and undergo everything from puberty blockers to surgery necessarily regret it later on in life. I am not one that is a huge proponent of doing it before someone is of the age of 18. However, I do acknowledge there can be unique individual circumstances that could be appropriate. But as a policy, no, I'm not in favor of it. However, I do say that I feel that the reason so many people that are under the age of 18 explore both the hormones and potential surgery is because if they don't look a certain way, we won't accept them at all. And they're already putting themselves out there and are the victims of ridicule, bullying, ostracization, assault, and more inside our society. And I would hazard to say that if we were more accepting, they wouldn't feel the need to, basically change themselves in order to comport to what society says they are. In fact, I think that somewhere around 80% of those that end up detransitioning have said that it's not because of a personal change inside of them, but because of societal pressure, meaning that it is too difficult to be this person, and it's easier for me to be this person. So it's just, that's what I'm saying, is that I'm not in favor of the teens doing it, but I think that we wouldn't see it as often if we as a society were more accepting of who they were.
There is mass delusion at work here in our culture. The number of trans surgeries has tripled in between 2016 and 2019. There were 3,678 trans surgeries on minors between the ages of 12 and 18. So there's a few things at work here. One, there's a lie in our culture that your gender is separate from your biological sex. It isn't. It is uniquely tied to it. There's no difference there. You cannot change your gender. And we've pushed this mass delusion upon kids that they can. They're confused. And then we've backed it up with this notion that if you don't allow the kids to do this, they're somehow going to commit suicide. Okay? That is wrong on our culture, and it's resulting in harm to these kids. So there needs to be a few steps here. One, these trans surgeries for minors needs to stop. There should be none of this taking place. It should be banned. Trump is right for forcing this at the national level, but states like Colorado are still trying to figure this out so they can allow this to continue. It should be banned. No trans surgeries for minors. You want to do this as an adult? I think it's wrong. I think you have issues that need to be addressed with, and you're permanently harming a perfectly working body to fulfill this notion that you can change your gender and your biological sex are somehow different. Okay, but that's being an adult, and adults are allowed to be wrong. But when you're a kid and this is taking place, this should be banned, and the doctors that are doing this should be sued so heavily that no insurance company will provide malpractice insurance for them. No hospitals would even consider doing this. That's where I think this needs to go. This was a horrible moment in American history where we allowed this to take place, and it should be fully banned. Bill, would you support the banning of trans surgeries on kids?
No, because I don't think that there is a universal. And you know me long enough, and those that are just joining us from the answer in Colorado Springs, I don't deal in universals. I'm uncomfortable with them because I know that there are, in all likelihood, going to be outliers, and I want to create space for those outlying cases. So no, but I do think that it should be much more difficult to get the surgeries done. I think there should be a much, much higher bar than there is. Again, I think that it would be a fraction of a percent of actual. I don't like the idea of surgeries, and I especially do not like the below the waist surgeries for anybody under the age of 18. And I'm not super comfortable with it over the age of 18. But adults do adult things, and there are all sorts of weird things that adults do. See some stories we do when you choose the news. If you don't know about that, join us at 6:50 in the morning. What I look at is why. Okay, what I'm curious about though is, why do you call it a mass delusion? How are you coming to that conclusion that this is a mass delusion by these people?
Well, in part because of the fact that it's tripled. Okay, so this has people have gotten caught up in stuff that isn't actually happening in their lives. At one point, this was understood to be gender dysphoria. It was a mental health issue to address and to work through. Now, what you have is you could pick one of 72 genders on any given day. You can switch from a he, him, to she, her, to they, them, to zer, based upon the day that you feel like. And if you don't embrace it, you don't accept it, you don't put the pronouns in your bio, then you're not a compassionate human being. We shifted as a society from dealing with this as a mental health issue, gender dysphoria, to pushing this on all of our kids, on all of society to embrace it. And the idea that you can change this at any moment, anytime is completely wrong. It's a lie. And the worst lie is that your gender is somehow separated from your biological sex.
Now, there are a couple of things therein. One, if we would just replace transgender and put in the word homosexuality, it's exactly the same arguments that were made coming in the 60s and 70s, that all of a sudden we didn't have all these gay people, and now that gay people are okay, now we all of a sudden have a lot of gay people. People must be catching the gay. That was the idea, that just a simple exposure to them was going to make someone gay. There are people that probably, listening to the show, that have experience with someone in their life that knew someone that was homosexual, and someone approached them about, they're not trying to make you do that funny stuff, are they? That happened somewhat regularly during that time, because we felt it was that. We also defined it as a mental illness at the time. So just because there are a lot more of them, and just because we define it as a mental illness at one point, doesn't mean it's not real. I think that you're discounting it, and based on our history, we can see that it absolutely can be real. I also disagree with the idea that they're just choosing what their gender is or anything else on a particular day, where you seem to ignore that this could be how they're actually wired. Just like the idea of saying, I couldn't imagine why someone would choose to have sex with someone of the same sex. But there's a genetic component that seems to be contained therein. So this absolutely could be genetic, and I believe there is a portion of this that is genetic. And that's where I come from, is the idea that I've seen this dance before. I saw these objections, I saw these accusations when we were dealing with people that were homosexual. And it's the same thing.
How is that not a false equivalency fallacy?
Yeah, how? Tell me why. Because
I'm asking, because you're saying because these things have similar aspects, one, they were both condemned by society at one point, they're now the same thing.
It's not similar, it's almost identical. If you replace the noun of transgenderism with homosexuality, the complaints that you are outlining are the same ones that were done back then. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not a false equivalency. It is an equivalency. I'm saying
right,
that...
But no, it's a false equivalency in that you're saying that they should both be embraced. Our society was wrong to ostracize, because at one point they ostracized one. They should be wrong to ostracize this as well, and society should embrace both of them.
No, not the case I'm making. What I'm saying is that our decision at the time, when more people were coming out of the closet, was that, oh my gosh, here's an explosion of homosexuality. How come there are now 3, 4, 5 times the amount of homosexuals that we had just a few years ago? It must be catching. And that this is some sort of an individual choice that is done, and that it is based on indoctrination. That it was gay people turning other people gay. How many times have we heard, even on the show, we've had texters and callers that talk about the fact that a gay couple can only raise gay kids because they indoctrinate them. It still exists today, that idea. So that's what I'm doing. It's not a false equivalency. It's an absolute equivalency, because what we're doing is you're taking the same complaints that were done about homosexuality and we're just replacing it with transgenderism. Yeah, that's it.
With the point being that society is better off when it's accepting of these, right?
Yeah. It is, because I don't see the harm. I mean, the idea is, and the thing for me is...
I did a lawsuit. Harm, $2 million lawsuit. 3,000 minors getting this.
Is the harm based on the
surgery? No harm?
Was the harm based on the acceptance of a transgender person? Or was the harm based on the psychologist and the doctor not following proper procedures? What was the harm?
Harm? The harm was embracing a lie.
No,
that you can change your gender.
No, I will ask it again. Is the harm based on the person being transgender, or is the harm based on the doctor and the psychologist not following the proper procedures and skipping steps?
Both.
Now, the harm that was outlined in the court is very specific. The harm is the doctor and the psychologist skipping steps. It's not the harm isn't at all the person being transgender or choosing that. That's not the harm.
Yes, it is. It's the whole basis of this. It's the whole basis of they bought into a lie, forced it upon the kids. The doctors didn't follow proper procedure, and a kid got harmed. It's not just that the doctors didn't follow proper procedure.
That's the ruling in the court case. The ruling doesn't say transgender people bad, transgender people awful, transgender people lying. The ruling says the doctor and the psychologist did not follow proper procedure.
That girl was on that operating table was because her parents, the doctor, and the psychologist all bought into a lie.
The reason she was on that operating table is because the doctor and the psychologist skipped important steps that could have led to a different outcome. That's why she was on that. That's why she was on that table, is because the doctor and the psychologist skipped steps and didn't do things that they should have. And that is awful. Just like in any other surgery, if you're having hip replacement surgery, if you are having a knee replacement surgery, any other surgery, if the doctors involved and people involved skip steps, there's a danger and there's malpractice.
You're missing a big portion of this, which is not just the harm that this girl has gone through, but women's sports has gone through, the safety and well-being of women in places like bathrooms and locker rooms. The entire thing is a lie. It's impacting a lot of people, and there's a lot of lawsuits coming. Feel free to join us. Jump in on the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Faith, family, and freedom. These values define the American tradition and are increasingly under attack. The Centennial Institute at Colorado Christian University is dedicated to remaining a committed voice for Christian conservative principles. Through their public events, publications, and student initiatives, they are committed to delivering world-class programming that empowers citizens of all ages to stand boldly for conservative values and engage with the pressing issues of the day with grace and truth. The need to promote principled conservatism and train the next generation of conservative leaders to speak with moral clarity and conviction is more urgent than ever. Join the Centennial Institute at Colorado Christian University in their work to recommit the culture to faith, family, freedom, and future. Learn more at centennial.ccu.edu. That's centennial.ccu.edu. More of the Jeff and Bill Show coming up. News Talk 710, KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
Yeah, and a big welcome to all of our listeners on AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. Join us in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show. We invite people to be a part of the conversation. The first gender detransitioner medical malpractice case to go to trial resulted in a $2 million verdict against the medical professionals who approved the double mastectomy for the plaintiff, Fox Varian, her name. In 2019, she was only 16 years old. Text messages very hot on this one. By the way, you can text in on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Cap Hill Phil saying, Jeff, is your objection to someone's desire to medically transition based on the possibility of public money being spent on it? Or is it more of an issue of knowing what's better for them? Because I think I know what the libertarian stance should be. I don't know that I would call you a libertarian, though. But you know what I mean. Correct, Cap Hill Phil. I am not a libertarian. But as a conservative, particularly as a Christian conservative, there is a God at the center of this universe. And our laws need to line up with the purpose and order and direction of this universe. If you don't have a God at the center, your laws become basically tribal, right? So this is the great Jewish benefit to our society with the laws, was that there's one God, he is universal, and you get the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not bear false witness. That shaped Western civilization, that there is a universal set of laws and that there is a God at the center of that. And society thrives. There's human flourishing when you live by that, right? That we see that in study after study after study, that kids that come, for instance, from a two-parent home with a mom and a dad in a committed monogamous relationship raising those kids tend to flourish better than kids that are dealing with single-parent issues. You have a higher propensity to end up in jail, less likely to graduate from high school. So there's an order to this world. And part of that order is that there's no separation of gender from biological sex. God creates you as male or female. That is it. And society needs to structure around male and female differences, right? This is why you have all these problems now with women in sports, because men broke through that barrier with this trans ideology. And now you have women that are missing out on scholarships. They're being injured in their sports. You have men walking into women's restrooms and violating those spaces. So there's an important order to this world, and it's just a lie. The idea that you can separate out your gender from your biological sex, pick different genders on a daily basis, that there's 70 plus genders out there, just is ongoing. It continues to grow. It doesn't lead to human flourishing. I think it leads to human challenges, problems, depression that they're not going to get out. When we live according to God's rule and guidance, things turn out better. Text messages for you, Bill. Let's see if I can find them. I had it, but we have so many jumping through here.
That,
but you want to respond to that, go ahead.
Some of the depression stuff that you're talking about is, from what they say, it's because of the pressures of society to conform, that they feel a certain way, and society says, nope, sorry, you have to be this. That's where the depression comes from, not from the actual transitioning. In fact, most people that are in that that are trans report much better mental health outcomes after transitioning, after accepting the gender they feel they are. And again, just like the text messages, they were saying that this is something that society can blame and it's society's fault that these people need to transition. And my point is, no, I'm saying that the depression is mostly external. I mean, it's already difficult what they're going through. And then they have external pressures as well in order to conform to what society says they shouldn't be. And I understand what you're saying about, again, bathrooms and locker rooms. But as a reminder, those fears are not based on transgender women. Those fears are based on men. men, that men have done something to the women, not the transgender women doing things to the women. Those fears were created by men. And now we turn around and point and go, nah, it's the trans females that are creating the issue. No, it's us, the dudes. It's us that are doing it. We need to acknowledge that. I agree with you based on the sports. There are biological differences, and any sport that has a physical difference, no, there should not be. There's no way, shape, or form that should happen, and I think that is fair. And I do think that there are some opportunities there, either for something that is a co-ed sport or something that eventually might even get to a large enough group that is a transgender sport. But I think we are decades and decades and decades away from that, because there's such a small percentage of the population, and then of that very small percentage of the population, it's even a smaller set that want to be the athletes. So the idea of having an entire transgender league, I don't believe so. And as difficult as it is, it may be one that for the time being, they do not get to participate in school-sponsored organized sports. They can do intramurals and other things, and those sports do exist. That's how flag football teams started here in Colorado and elsewhere across the country, that they were more or less intramurals. There is an avenue. No, it's not perfect. No, I'm not saying that this is the absolute 100% right answer, nor is it perfect, but I think it's something that we could navigate and grow with inside our society. And I think it would, most people would say it would make sense, but they still might not like it.
So I think there's assumptions on both those sides that you're trying to hold at the same time. So with regards to biological differences, there's an acceptance that there are clear biological differences between men and women, and yet the transgender then wants to gloss over those differences in other capacities. So sports, yes, but actual identity, no, those don't matter so much. So it seems like you're holding both worldviews at the same time and trying to make them work when they are fundamentally, good night, incompatible.
Well, the thing is that they deal in different realms. The biological difference matters when they're playing sports. It's just like if someone is gay, and there are when there are physical sports, there's a biological difference that can impact, and that's absolutely fair. But if you're playing chess, I don't see the difference in the biological issues there, and that's the idea. In certain areas.
The idea is that there is a difference. You just admitted there is a difference.
Yeah, there is. I don't understand why that's an issue.
Male and female differences
in biology, right? Yes, and there's male and female differences in gender as well. Yes. Yeah, male and female differences in gender roles.
You want to somehow separate out gender from biological sex, and then make the argument that that the biological differences don't matter.
No, I never said the biological differences don't matter. In fact, I said that inside of those physical sports, the biological differences absolutely matter. But outside of that, I don't see where, in most cases, the biological differences matter. And again, I said most cases. It's not a universal. And what I mean by that is you're in a meeting at your place of work. Whether or not the person sitting across you from the conference table is transgender or not, the biological differences there don't make a lick of difference at all. It's just like the idea of homosexuality. Whether or not someone that is a friend, a neighbor, a coworker is homosexual doesn't matter until you want to sleep with them. Now it's super important. But up until then, there's nothing else that it doesn't impact anything else based on their ability to do the job or their ability to function inside of society. So there are biological differences when we talk about physical sports, but outside of that.
And those differences are inherent.
Yeah. But again, I've done this before because, biological sex is one thing. Gender is a social construct. It's different.
Says what?
Says society. Because society has always defined gender roles, and they have evolved and changed, and they are even different in different societies. So gender roles are a societal construct and always have been.
So the critique that comes from conservatives is that you're essentially trying to put something on a biological truth, right? So, for instance, you can wear a dress as a dude, you're still a dude. Right? Biologically, you are a male. Even though you're putting a dress on, you're identifying as a woman, you think you could walk into a woman's locker room, you think you could play their sports, whatever. At the end of the day, you're still a man. What the progressives are saying is, no. Your identity is what makes you what you are, right? So if you want to identify as a woman, you are a woman. That's why we have this whole movie, What is a Woman?, where no one can answer the question. Because they say, well, it is whatever you make it is. So do you see why my critique is you're trying to hold both at the same time? Because either you are biologically influenced by what you have inherently, like I just said, as conservatives, or you can just change and be a woman if you want to be a woman. But you can't hold those both at the same time.
Sure you can, because they're different, and you absolutely can. And I'm not certain that our new friends up there at The Answer in Colorado Springs will appreciate this, but there are a whole bunch of people that have gone and done touristy things in portions of the Asian Pacific Rim, and were super surprised that really pretty woman they were flirting with at the bar.
Were they a woman, though?
Here's the thing. Biologically, no. But in society, when they were interacting with them in the bar and when they were interacting with them in public, yes, that's the difference. That's why it's not holding the same.
You see why I just said you try to hold both of them at the same time. You just said he is not a woman and is a woman at the same time.
Yes, because those are both true. See, the thing is, the problem I have is that we want to make this delineation or this decision that because someone is biologically born this way, then they have to behave this way as far as the gender social construct. And that's not true, because gender roles have changed over the course of society. They have not been static.
Are they a woman, Bill? Yes or no? Is that person in front of us in that country that you just talked about, is that person a woman? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Based on the social setting.
But you just said he has inherently a man.
Yep. Because, again, I'm talking where I'm doing it. And, again, I'm looking at this as in that social setting. In that social setting, how they are acting and presenting themselves and how other people are interacting with them, they are female. 110% female. And that's it.
110% female.
Yes.
So it has nothing to do with biological sex.
Here's the thing. They're different. They're different. That's the problem. You want to put them together and they're different.
This proves to me that all you get is confusion. You get away from the biblical mandates and clear teachings in the Bible. All you get is confusion. Some guy that is both male and female at the same time is also 110% female and also a male. That's just confusion. It doesn't actually work in society. All right. Feel free to join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Back to the original headline. Detransitioner wins $2 million medical malpractice lawsuit. There's more coming. Believe me, if you are a doctor or hospital involved in this, you're going to end up paying big. I've said it all along. They're going to regret what you did to them, and they're going to make you pay. All right, let's talk modern rugged leather. From city streets to mountain trails, your gear should go wherever life takes you. That's why at Modern Rugged Leather, every bag is handcrafted from premium, responsibly sourced leather, designed to look sharp, last long, and tell a story of its own. Each stitch, buckle, and strap reflects timeless craftsmanship and is backed by a lifetime warranty, because quality shouldn't quit when the adventure begins. Whether it's in the boardroom or the back roads, Modern Rugged Leather helps you carry confidence every step of the way. Modern Rugged Leather, modern style, timeless durability, backed for life. Life takes you places. Make sure your gear keeps up. Shop the full collection and find yours today at modernrugged.com. Again, that's modernrugged.com. Phone lines hot, text messages hot. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is News Talk 710 KNUS, and now on AMs 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. All along the Front Range, this is The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
Yeah, and a big welcome to everybody in AM 16, AM 1460, and FM 101.1 land. It's The Answer in Colorado Springs joining us right now.
Billy, you fired up the text messages from our friends in the Springs on this issue, believe me. Getting lots of them. One of them, listening to your conversation on the way to work. Yes, the difference matters in medicine and construction jobs, in the military, mothering and fathering, according to all the data and our ability to process identifications and do things like immigration. It's hard to think of any area which the sex difference doesn't actually matter. Not to mention the case of variant Fox also has to do with this girl being a minor and doctors missing all the psychological comorbidities associated with this and then rushing to cut off her breasts. They're going to get sued a lot. Billy, you're just making the argument that society should accept anything people want to think up in their own heads. I personally think a man is a man and a woman is a woman. Does that make me a horrible person? Why should society be forced not to deal in reality? Your response. Billy's dealing with all the phone lines here.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Yeah, sure. No worries.
Yeah.
Billy, you're making the argument that society should just accept anything people want to make up in their own heads. I personally think a man is a man and a woman is a woman. Does that make me a horrible person? Why should society be forced not to deal in reality?
See, the thing is that operates off of a premise that you're again, it's the idea that this is how I see the world, so everybody else must comport around me. It's the same argument that you're making that you're trying to use against the transgender people. You're saying, I don't believe what the transgender people are saying me. Why do I have to participate with what they're doing? And it's the same argument that gender people are saying. I mean, do you see, you're just flipping the argument. You're just saying that I don't agree with you, so I'm not going to believe you.
We're also dealing with law, and all of law up until like last year, when it was written with regards to distinctions between male and female, was written with the understanding that it was rooted in biological differences. Now, all of a sudden, gender identity comes along and tries to force that worldview, Bill, upon 2,000 years of written law and says, because I identify as a woman, now all the legal protections to women belong to me, even though I'm a biological man.
Well, that's somewhat incorrect, because not all 2,000 years of written law, because we've had other societies that accepted transgender individuals. The Hindu society, before the English arrived, had 3 genders. And they did have transgender people as part of the regular society. So it's not that they just appeared because of indoctrination or something inside of our world right now.
Then deal with American law for the past 250 years.
Okay. But here's
the larger issue being you are forcing transgender upon established distinctions and believing that those established distinctions can jump across back and forth to each other.
Are those established distinctions in the law based on biology or based on gender roles?
Biology and gender.
Not necessarily.
100% both.
But both.
But mostly biological.
Okay, then why don't we do the rule? Then I think in that case with the law, if the law is dealing with gender, it deals with gender. If the law is dealing with biological sex, it deals with biological sex. That's an interpretation of what the law is saying. And we interpret what the law is saying all the time. Just see the Supremes. They do it all the time.
So, I mean, you're admitting that this is a new way of looking at the world, in America at least. I guess we can run back to pre-early days Hinduism. But in America, that distinction between biological sex and gender identity is new.
It's newer for our society, but here's the thing. We have had evolutions in our society over the course of our history. At one point, we thought it was okay to own people. And at one point, we picked out just about any minority that you can imagine and said they aren't allowed and they aren't part of our society. I bring this up a lot.
Also lobotomized people.
Yeah, we did.
So there are times where we go, got that wrrong.
Yeah, and we classified things as mental illnesses that weren't. One of the big stains, I believe, on America is back in 1939 with the St. Louis, where it was a bunch of Jewish refugees. And we said, no, we refused them access to our shores because we thought that they weren't compatible with American society, that the Jewish citizens wouldn't be compatible with American society. It's a huge stain on us, but we've made these choices before.
I mean, that's just like saying because America has gotten stuff wrong in the past, all of a sudden we have to embrace this.
What
This could just be a bad idea. And if you're a doctor performing this, you're going to get sued into the ground. All right, we will continue. Believe me, phone lines hot, text messages hot.
So many texts.
More of the Jeff and Bill Show coming up. News Talk 710, KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. All on the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show. We will be right back.